Welcome to the Back to Life podcast, where we explore living well, loving well, and being well. I'm your host, Nicole, and I invite you to tune in for inspirational conversations to get you back to life. Let's get started. All right, guys, welcome back to the Back to Life podcast. This is your guide to living well, loving well, and being well. I'm Nicole Green, a licensed professional counselor, and today we are going to kick off a new series about the emotional impact of our thoughts and behaviors. And joining me is my wonderful co-host, Angela Barella, the owner of Blue Phoenix Therapy. Yay! Thanks for joining me, Angela.
Hey, Nicole. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks. I'm glad. So, Angela, tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
So I'm a licensed counselor. My background is in trauma. So I work with a lot of women and teenagers diving into their trauma from their childhood. And that's kind of where I stay. That's my little niche right there.
Extremely trauma informed, right?
Yes.
There you go. Okay. I love that. So thanks for joining me on this, because this series is going to focus on some hidden symptoms of anxiety and depression, like procrastination, anger, perfectionism, control, and disappointment. And a lot of those can have a root in a traumatic background. And this is wonderful because you are the expert in this.
Yes, ma'am.
So yay. So you can join in and tell us a little bit about that connection. But today we're going to start with procrastination. And that is a behavior that many of us struggle with, but don't often connect to a deeper, emotional issue.
Yeah, that's right. I think a lot of times we sit back and we think of procrastination as just somebody who's being lazy or they don't have good, time management skills. Mm-hmm. But with procrastination, there's a lot more under the surface that goes with that.
You know what? What I tell my clients is all behavior is communication.
Exactly. Yes.
What is your behavior telling you?
Yes.
So it's important to listen. So I think this is good. And some of the topics that we're going to talk about this series, such as procrastination, it's going to reveal, it's like listening to our behaviors and looking at our life and going, what is our bodies trying to say?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but we're also, I know everyone has, now seen Inside Out 2. We love our emotions, right?
Yes.
So we're going to maybe making some references to Inside Out 2, which can introduce more complex emotions like anxiety. And it's a great way to visualize what's happening inside our minds.
Yes, definitely. It was a really good movie. Loved it. Took my boys, watched it. It's a good movie. And, with, starting with that, like the movie talks about fight or flight, which is kind of a good, starting point with this series.
Yeah.
And kind of understanding where procrastination goes and how that plays in with the fight or flight response.
Yes.
So if we look at that, right, our fight or flight, my bad, is typically designed to help us escape from some kind of danger that's getting triggered in our minds, or when we get overly stressed.
Yeah.
When we're faced with some kind of deadline or a difficult task with this, our mind typically wants to take a step back and freak out a little bit and get stressed. And if you look at the movie, right, anxiety totally has a meltdown.
Oh, does she?
So that's kind of what's going on in our minds. And that's where procrastination comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's our brain's way, of avoiding something. We're like, I don't want to do that. I just can't. And it's like, no, or there's a better way. And then that's when it starts to kind of get out of control. So Angela, let's talk a little bit more about like some triggers to why we, can procrastinate and what's really what's going on or what can be going on.
Okay, yeah. So usually it's because of a task trigger that's going on and it, triggers that fight or flight response. So instead of taking that task head on, which is the fighting part of it, we want to run from it or flee. That's, the flight.
Yes. I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly. And usually it's just due to a fear of failure, perfectionism, or even just anxiety about what comes after that task once it's done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that makes so much sense. It's like Riley, the little girl in the movie, her brain, where anxiety just takes over, making her avoid, well, actually, joy made her avoid things.
Yeah.
But also anxiety you know, made her think about like, no, but what if, what if, and then it's not. And you can get to a point where it's too much and you just kind of want to shut down.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's this avoidance that kind of feeds into that whole anxiety and stress, and it just keeps this cycle going.
Yeah.
You have these negative emotions, as anxiety or fear,
Mm-hmm.
and it just leads to more avoidance traits. And that cycle just keeps going over and over and over until, you find a way to break it.
Absolutely. So how do we break it? I mean, because that brings us to our next part, which is in reference to Inside Out, return to imagination
Yeah.
land. And we're going to talk, let's look at procrastination's link to anxiety. So
Yeah.
how do we break that cycle?
So actually, procrastination and anxiety are really closely linked. They kind of go hand in hand a lot.
Yes.
So when we put off certain tasks, our anxiety will actually increase more, because we're constantly aware of what we're not doing, what we should be doing.
And then that piles on shame too.
It really does. It does. So it's like living with a cloud over us all the time.
It's stressful.
And yes, it definitely is. And the more, we let it go, the more we procrastinate, the worse our anxiety kind of gets. Because we know if there's a deadline, it's coming.
Yeah.
And we're just avoiding it.
Yeah.
And
I'll do it later.
Exactly. Yes.
But you know what? And it's funny because also in the movie you can see how the emotions can spiral when not managed properly. And like you said, putting things off too much and not dealing with certain things, you're going to deal with it either now or later.
Yeah.
And so later is not always better.
No.
And so our imagination can run wild with the worst case scenarios, making the task even more scarier. And as you can see, just everything just spins out of control.
Yes, yeah. It does. Yeah. And, the key is to recognize like that anxiety. What triggers that anxiety? What is your fear of actually completing this task?
Yeah.
Which a lot of times we don't take a step back and think about, well, why am I feeling this way?
Like,
why am I
really
avoiding
about?
this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's, why sometimes in therapy is so important, because it, having somebody look at you and tell you, well, what are you avoiding? What are you running from? Yeah. I think it can be so beneficial, and, we don't realize it.
Well, we don't think about it, No. I mean, think about it. Who actually goes, something happens and they're like, let me pause. Let me think.
Exactly.
What is this? What am I feeling? But no, we don't. But this is why we practice that in therapy, so that when those times do come up, it's almost like it's a new automatic response, where we can kind of say, okay, hold up. What's happening with me?
Yeah.
What's really going on?
Exactly. Like once we're aware of like what's going on, what's triggering our anxiety, like that's how we can start to manage it. With mindfulness, cognitive behavioral techniques that come into play. All of these things are really important in understanding like why we do the things that we do and how to change them.
Absolutely. Being mindful of our thoughts and breaking tasks into smaller, manageable steps can really help. I know sometimes it's the overwhelm of it all, and sometimes routines and habits or rituals, whatever you want to call it, they can be very helpful to kind of, one, lowering anxiety, kind of giving you a structure so that procrastination is minimized. And now, because then that can kind of lead us to talking about a done track mind.
Yeah.
And now we're going to just talk about some strategies and tips to kind of manage and overcome procrastination. I know with my clients a lot, we use calendars and different things to, to kind of build, kind of like design your day or design your week or your day,
absolutely.
Or, just something like that, and these are things that it may seem more like on the outside, it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. That seems rigid or whatever. But for a lot of people, it can be transformative, because if they're running from here to there to here to there, and it can increase the overwhelm, increase the anxiety levels. So by putting things in their place, in their proper place, it helps to minimize that. Now, will that completely eradicate procrastination? No. Let's get real. Okay. We're human, but sometimes it's hard to human. So sometimes we have to recognize what we need. And sometimes we need structure and we need a routine. And the thing about it is, with routine, for me, I feel like routine is just guideposts. You may not like at 7 a.m., I'm going to do this. And, you may not go like rigid like that, but at least it tells you how you want your day to flow, what you need to do and everything. So there's no surprises, in the sense of there's none like, I'll just do that tomorrow. It's less likely for you to want to do that.
Yeah. Well, if you know what's expected or what's coming,
yes,
you're less likely to experience that freak out that comes with anxiety and that out of control.
Big freak out.
Yes, definitely. And I think I 100% agree with you when, whether you come from a trauma background or, you work with ADHD, you work with kids, I think having a structure and having a schedule works great, because we know exactly what's coming next.
And why do you think it works with kids so well?
Yes, it's great. A lot of us hate structure. I'm not too fond of it.
We rebel.
Yes, but it helps so much. And one like really good effective strategy is the Pomodoro Technique.
Yes,
I use it a lot with my ADHD clients. Just because it involves working for a set period of time. I tell them, get your phone, set a timer, work for 25 minutes, get up, walk around, do whatever you need to do. But it allows you that break where you can not feel so overwhelmed.
Exactly. It's like chunking your day, you know what I mean? Into manageable pieces, And I love that method because I use that as well. It's also, really important to kind of set realistic goals. Instead of aiming to finish this huge visionary project that you have in one go, it's so important to break it down into smaller milestones. But I'm going to be honest, I'm guilty of this one. I have visions of just wonderful things that I want to do now. But the thing about it is, each one of those things are possible. But there's smaller steps that you need to take in order to achieve those. So it's like, just start one foot in front of the other.
Yes.
And that's a good reminder. So when you start to feel overwhelmed with something, it's kind of like, what's my next best step? You know what I mean? It's like just one step.
It's like celebrating those small little wins every day.
Absolutely.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yes, celebrating those small wins definitely makes a huge difference. Positive reinforcement helps motivate us and keeps us going. It's definitely something that's needed.
Oh, for sure. Another tip is to remove distractions.
Yes, I struggle with this one the most.
But you know what? It's kind of like if it's okay for me to mention, your fidget there.
Oh yeah, I fidget all day long. No, so I have boxes of little fidget toys everywhere.
Exactly. And like, I have therapy putty. And so for a lot of time, it's kind of like, it's interesting how when we're engaging in something else, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It could definitely, but like removing distractions, going with the technique you mentioned, it's important, to create a workspace, or just a space, that's conducive to focus.
Yes.
I know for some people with ADHD, chewing gum while they're doing something is a really good, kind of way to keep focus. And sometimes just decluttering your desk, your room, your corner, whatever.
Yes, it makes a big difference.
Turn off your notifications on your phone. That is... Man, if you have an iPhone, use that focus feature. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, for real. No, it really does help. It can kind of stop, what's going on, all your notifications. Because as soon as something comes up on Instagram or something like that, ooh, squirrel.
Oh, yeah.
Squirrel.
Yes.
Now, this is not about ADHD, and we are not,
No.
we're not saying, we're not calling them out only. This is for anyone. We know how it's, we live in a world now where it's so easy to be distracted.
Yeah, there's distraction everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes. And, let's not forget, getting back on topic, practicing self-compassion.
Yeah.
I think being kind to yourself when you slip up is it's
Huge.
hard sometimes, to be kind. And, there was actually a study that was published in Self and Identity, and they found that people prone to procrastination had lower levels of, self-compassion for themselves and higher levels of stress.
Yeah.
And, when you kind of have all that stress all the time, it's hard to be positive. Yeah. So self-compassion is really, really important. And I don't know. I think it's something that everybody should practice, no matter what modality they practice in counseling.
I agree. But you know what? It is easier said than done. And and like you said, you coming with a more trauma-informed view or lens, it is hard, when you have someone who has years of criticism and shame to give self-compassion. It's not impossible. It's unlearning all of that and relearning that it's okay.
Exactly. I mean, it's easier, right, when you come from a background with trauma to beat yourself up over every little tiny mistake that you make. And that definitely leads to more procrastination. Because when you're feeling down, you're not trying to work towards these goals.
No, you're just kind of like, see, I should have done this. Exactly. And you're just beating yourself down. And that's not helpful.
No, definitely not helpful at all.
No. So let's take a moment for a reflection. Okay.
Sounds good.
Think about a task that you've been putting off. Okay. Thinking about, I can think of several. What emotions come up for you when you think about it? So let's just say there is a project that you want to start and you're like, I don't want to do that right now. What emotions are coming up for you? Like when you think about it, is it fear? Is it anxiety? Is it something else? And I also want you to think about how you can break it down into smaller steps and approach it with a fresh mindset, because how we look at things will affect in how we do things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry. That's my CBT.
Yes. That's your background.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good question, to ask. And it's all about understanding that root cause of what's causing our procrastination. It's, taking those mindful steps to understand, taking that step back to be like, well, what is actually going on inside of me? What is keeping me from wanting to achieve all these things that I have going on? All these sticky notes that I have on my mirror or on my desk, like what is keeping me from
the clutter?
Exactly. Like what is keeping me from that?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard.
It is hard. It's hard to look at things like this and go, why? Why am I doing this? What's really going on for me?
Yeah.
But I thank you so much, Angela, for joining me today and, sharing your valuable insights to this topic that, we talk about, but we don't talk about because we procrastinate.
Yes, we do. Thank you. I had a great time discussing this. It's definitely something that's not discussed often.
No.
And it should be. I think a lot of people are embarrassed when, they procrastinate.
Yeah, because who wants to,
yeah.
Who wants to hear about that? I don't, there are a lot of us that go to that last minute crunch or we're crying while we're typing. I know that was me in graduate school.
That was me in school too. I wait to the last minute.
And I'm like, sitting there going, no!
I'm like, don't talk to me.
Yes. I mean, that's not the best way to live.
It was not, no.
But we've all done that. And so we hope that, that you've enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. And that you've, it shed some, not some light, but shed whatever light, that it has. But it also helped you to think a little bit more about what is going on with you. Join us next time as we continue our series with a look at anger. So next time we're going to talk about anger. That's going to be a fun one. And its hidden emotional impacts. So remember, living well, loving well, and being well starts with understanding ourselves better. We'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories about this series that we're talking about. You can follow us online at our website or on socials, and information about that is in the show notes. Be well.